I need to start this off with something bold, because for the longest time, people, including myself, have been trying to piece together how the Marvel Cinematic Universe's multiverse actually works. We've seen Loki throw us into the madness with branching timelines. We've seen Spider-Man, No Way Home, play with variance and identity. And we've seen Doctor Strange literally fracture reality in Multiverse of Madness. And yet, if I'm being honest, it always felt like something was missing. Like Marvel was intentionally keeping a core rule hidden from us, so we'd never truly understand the stakes until the very end. But now? Now I think we finally know. And once you understand this missing piece, suddenly the future of Marvel, Secret Wars, Avengers, Doomsday, even Doctor Doom's inevitable arrival, becomes way clearer than it's ever been before. So I want to take you on a journey, not just through what we already know, but through a theory that ties it all together. Because the MCU has been planting seeds for this explanation since Phase 4 started, and if you rewatch the multiverse saga with this in mind, the entire puzzle actually makes sense. And it all begins with a deceptively simple question. What if multiple timelines can exist within a single universe? I know, that sounds confusing at first. We've been conditioned to think of universe and timeline as basically the same thing, right? If you're in Universe 616, you're in that timeline. If you're in another, like the Fox X-Men world, or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man world, that's a different universe. That's how most people break it down. But what Marvel has quietly shown us, and what Loki in particular confirmed, is that timelines are not the same as universes. They're different layers. Imagine a universe like a giant canvas. A timeline is the paint stroke across it. Normally, there's only one clean stroke running across, but in rare circumstances, multiple strokes can overlap on that same canvas. That's when things get messy. That's when incursions happen. That's when universes collapse in on each other. And that's the missing piece. Because once you realize that, you start to see why Kang is so dangerous, why the TVA was designed to prune branches, and why Doctor Doom will end up being a bigger threat than even Kang. Doom understands the rules of the multiverse in a way Kang doesn't, and that's going to set the stage for Secret Wars in a way nobody is really prepared for. So let me break this down from the ground up, and I'll show you how the MCU's multiverse actually works, and why the future is about to get so much darker, more complicated, and more epic than any of us thought. I remember watching Loki Season 1 for the first time, and that finale moment when Jonathan Majors showed up as He Who Remains. That was the first real confirmation that timelines branching wasn't just a metaphor. It was literal. You saw the sacred timeline break apart into infinite strands, like a spiderweb unraveling, and He Who Remains explained that all these branches would lead to chaos, and eventually to Kang variants waging war across realities. But here's the detail that stuck with me. He never said those branches were different universes. He called them timelines. That's an important distinction. Think back to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When Strange and America Chavez were falling through different realities, they saw paint worlds, cube worlds, animated worlds. That was universes. But when Strange used the Darkhold to dreamwalk into a different version of himself, that wasn't another universe. That was another timeline within the same universe. That's why he could dreamwalk at all, because timelines within a universe are connected through the same soul blueprint, so to speak. That's why your dreams feel like alternate lives. You're glimpsing a variant of yourself in a timeline inside your same universe. This blew my mind when I started thinking about it, because it suddenly explained why certain rules seemed inconsistent. Like, why could Spider-Man, No Way Home, pull in villains from totally different movies, and yet keep them tethered to Peter's identity? Why did Strange's spell target everyone who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and reach across not just timelines, but seemingly across different universes? The answer is, it didn't. What it actually did was target overlapping timelines inside the same larger multiversal cluster. Toby's world, Andrew's world, Tom's world. They're different timelines that have branched far enough to feel like separate universes, but they're not entirely independent. They share connective tissue. That's why characters like Venom can slip through, why memories can be erased across realities, and why an incursion is so terrifying. An incursion isn't just two universes colliding randomly. It's two timelines inside a universe expanding to the point they overwrite the whole canvas. It's rare, but when it happens, it destabilizes the entire structure. And that, to me, is the ultimate clue to how Marvel's multiverse actually functions. Now, let's zoom out for a second. Because if you really want to understand the stakes, you have to go back to Kang. He Who Remains warned us that he kept one sacred timeline intact to prevent Kang variants from rising. Why? Because if multiple timelines exist, they give birth to alternate versions of people, including Kang. And once you have a Kang in every timeline, they start fighting. That's the multiversal war. But here's the thing, Kang is not the end game. Kang is the setup. Doom is the end game, and Marvel has been quietly paving the road for him. Doom isn't just a scientist, or a sorcerer, or a conqueror, though he's all of those things. Doom is someone who, in the comics, takes control of the multiverse by understanding its rules better than anyone else. In Secret Wars 2015, Doom literally reshaped reality into Battleworld by piecing together fragments of destroyed universes. And if the MCU is following that playbook even loosely, Doom is going to exploit this timeline inside a universe rule to his advantage. Think about it. Kang is obsessed with pruning timelines because he sees them as threats. Doom would manipulate them. He would merge them, steal from them, and crown himself ruler over the merged result. And if Avengers, Doomsday is really the movie before Secret Wars, then that title isn't just dramatic, it's literal. It's the day the Avengers face their own destruction at Doom's hands, because he has mastered the multiverse in a way Kang never could. So, if I'm right, the missing piece that Marvel has been keeping from us is this. Timelines are not throwaway storylines. They are living, breathing parts of a universe. And when you stack too many of them on top of each other, the weight collapses everything. That's what incursions are. That's why universes die. And that's the stage being set right now. Now here's where it gets even crazier. If you go back and rewatch the multiverse saga so far with this in mind, all those weird inconsistencies suddenly make sense. Let's take Loki Season 2. When the temporal loom was overloading, what was really happening? It wasn't just too many timelines. It was too many timelines branching within the same universe, overwhelming the core structure. That's why the loom exploded. It wasn't meant to weave infinite branches inside one universe. It was meant to regulate a single flow. Or look at Multiverse of Madness again. Remember when Strange and Christine were walking through the ruins of a destroyed universe after an incursion? The implication wasn't that another universe just smashed into theirs randomly. It was that overlapping timelines had destabilized that universe until it tore itself apart. That's why incursions are unpredictable. Because once two timelines start fighting for dominance inside the same space, reality doesn't know how to reconcile them. And this explains why the X-Men and Fantastic Four can enter the MCU now. They're not from completely separate universes. They're from alternate timelines that branched within the same multiversal layer. The Fox universe, for instance, might not be an entirely standalone existence. It's a divergent timeline of 616's cluster. That's why Deadpool 3 is rumored to be so meta and chaotic. Deadpool literally breaks through timelines within the same overarching multiverse. If that's true, then Secret Wars isn't just going to be about universes colliding. It's going to be about timelines being forced into one space until Doom emerges as the only one who can hold it together. And when he does, he'll use Battleworld as his solution, piecing together fragments of timelines like a patchwork quilt. That's terrifying, but it's also brilliant storytelling. Here's where my mind goes next. If multiple timelines can exist inside a universe, then technically, the MCU has been multiversal from the very beginning. Think about all the what-if scenarios we've imagined. What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark? What if Peggy became Captain Carter? Marvel's What If isn't just fun side stories. They're timelines that branched off within the same universal structure. That means Captain Carter is just as real as Steve Rogers. Supreme Strange is just as real as MCU Strange. And here's the kicker. If these timelines all exist within the same layered universe, then Doom has access to all of them. He can pull from them, merge them, and weaponize them. That's why the Avengers are going to need help from the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and literally anyone Marvel can throw into the fight. Because Doom won't just be conquering universes, he'll be conquering every timeline inside them. That's bigger than anything we've seen before. And honestly, it makes me look at Kang differently too. Kang's obsession with pruning makes more sense now. He doesn't prune to stop other universes. He prunes to stop overlapping timelines that birth other versions of himself. Because Kang knows what happens when too many of him exist in the same universal cluster, it destabilizes everything. That's why he wanted one sacred timeline. That's why he killed off his other selves. Because he knew the truth about how fragile the structure really is. But Kang is ultimately short-sighted. He can't stop the inevitable branching. Doom, on the other hand, doesn't just accept it. He masters it. That's why Doom is the final boss of the multiverse saga, not Kang. I'm going to stop here before diving into Arc 2, but let me leave this thought with you. If Marvel really has been setting this up from the start, then rewatching the multiverse saga with this missing rule in mind is going to blow your mind. Suddenly, all the little inconsistencies, all the confusing rules, they click into place. The multiverse isn't just infinite universes, it's infinite timelines stacked inside universes, like a deck of cards. And when the deck gets too heavy, it collapses. That collapse is coming. Kong can't stop it. The Avengers can't stop it. The X-Men and Fantastic Four can't stop it. Only Doom will stand in the ashes, and that's why Avengers, Doomsday is going to change the MCU forever. When I left off, I was talking about how the MCU's multiverse isn't just an infinite number of universes floating independently, but rather layered timelines that can exist inside a single universe. And when too many timelines pile up, you get incursions, destruction, and the need for someone, whether Kang or Doom, to seize control. Now this is where things get really interesting, because once you start thinking about this system, you realize that the true story Marvel is building isn't just about Kang's dynasty. It's about Doctor Doom's ascension. Kang might be the face of chaos, but Doom is going to be the one who sees order in that chaos and bends it to his will. And if you pay attention, Marvel has already started laying the groundwork for this. Let's start with Kang himself. In Loki, we were told that Kang variants fought across the multiverse in a massive war, and He Who Remains managed to end it by creating a single sacred timeline. That sounds noble, but really, what was he doing? He wasn't saving the multiverse. He was suppressing it. He was pruning any branch that threatened to spawn another Kang. In other words, Kang's solution was control through restriction. Contrast that with Doom. In the comics, Doom never restricts. He assimilates. He takes broken pieces of reality and fuses them into something he can dominate. It's the difference between someone trying to keep a wildfire from spreading and someone who says, "Fine, let it spread, and I'll build a new city out of the ashes." That's why Doom is the ultimate villain for Secret Wars. But here's the thing. Doom isn't just going to show up randomly. Marvel has been seeding the idea of someone who understands both science and sorcery. Someone who can look at the multiverse not as a problem, but as raw material. And when you look back at Phase 4 and 5, there are hints everywhere that someone like Doom is looming. For example, remember in Multiverse of Madness, when Strange encounters the Illuminati? That wasn't just fan service. That was Marvel showing us that powerful minds in other timelines have tried to create order out of multiversal chaos. Professor X, Reed Richards, Captain Carter, they formed councils to keep balance, but they failed. Why? Because none of them truly understood the deeper rules. They treated universes like separate bubbles, not realizing that timelines inside those bubbles are what actually destabilize everything. And that's where Doom comes in. Doom's entire comic history is built on him understanding systems better than anyone else, whether it's magic, technology, or the multiverse itself. So when Avengers Doomsday rolls around, I believe the story won't just be Doom shows up and fights the Avengers. It'll be Doom shows up and he proves that he understands the multiverse better than anyone else, and he uses that knowledge to break the Avengers completely. Now let's talk about the Avengers themselves, because their downfall is key to all of this. Right now in the MCU, the Avengers are scattered. Some are gone, some are retired, some are dealing with personal battles. This isn't the united team that fought Thanos. And Marvel is doing this intentionally because when Doomsday hits, the Avengers won't just be physically unprepared, they'll be philosophically unprepared. They still think the multiverse is just universes colliding, villains spilling over, or random incursions happening by chance. They don't realize it's a layered system collapsing under its own weight. That's why their first real encounter with Doom is going to be devastating. Imagine them trying to stop him with punches, spells, and teamwork, only for Doom to literally bend timelines in front of their eyes, pulling alternate versions of the Avengers into the fight, weaponizing their own variants against them. That's not just power, it's psychological warfare. And this is where I think Marvel's X-Men and Fantastic Four come in. These aren't just new heroes being introduced for fun, they're necessary reinforcements. Because Doom doesn't just threaten one team, he threatens every team, every timeline, every layer of the multiverse. That's why Marvel is bringing everyone together in Secret Wars. But here's the tragic part. The Avengers are going to lose first. That's why the movie is called Avengers Doomsday. It's literally their day of doom. It's the Empire Strikes Back moment of the multiverse saga. And I think I can even speculate how Doom rises to power. Remember Loki Season 2, when the loom exploded and Loki essentially became the new He Who Remains by holding the timelines together? That was a huge moment because it showed that someone can literally sit at the center of the multiverse and control it. But Loki, as powerful as that is, isn't a conqueror. He's holding things together out of necessity, almost like a guardian. Now imagine Doom stepping into that same role, but not as a guardian, as a ruler. Doom isn't interested in holding timelines safely. He's interested in restructuring them. And if Loki can control the multiverse's roots, then Doom can hijack that same system and reshape reality in his own image. That's Battleworld. That's Secret Wars. And here's where the timelines versus universe distinction becomes crucial. If Doom learns that multiple timelines can exist within a universe, then he realizes something no one else has. He doesn't need to conquer infinite universes. He just needs to merge the strongest timelines within a universe into a single, twisted reality that he rules. That's way more manageable, and way more terrifying, because it means Doom can cherry-pick the best versions of characters, events, and powers, and throw the rest away. So, if you've ever wondered why Marvel is introducing variants, bringing back old actors, and teasing alternate versions of beloved heroes, this is the answer. It's because Doom is going to build Battleworld out of them. Let me give you a chilling possibility. What if in Avengers Doomsday, Doom manages to trigger an incursion between two timelines of Universe 616? Maybe one timeline is the Avengers we know, and another is an alternate where mutants have always existed. When those timelines start collapsing into each other, Doom swoops in and stabilizes the wreckage, but under his rule. And suddenly, the Avengers realize they're trapped in Doom's reality, where he decides which heroes exist, which die, and which serve him. That would explain why Secret Wars is going to be a massive crossover event. It's not about jumping between random universes, it's about surviving inside Doom's merged Battleworld, where every timeline fragment has been forced into one patchwork world. That means Deadpool, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, maybe even Iron Man or Black Widow variants. They all exist in the same space because Doom put them there. And that's the beauty of this theory. It explains both the story logic and the business logic. Marvel gets to bring back legacy characters, surprise fans with dream matchups, and justify it all in universe because Doom literally stitched their timelines together. Now I want to talk about the war itself, because Doom isn't just going to rule unchallenged. Secret Wars is, at its core, about resistance. Think back to Infinity War and Endgame. Thanos was terrifying because he had a clear philosophy: balance the universe by wiping out half of life. But Doom's philosophy is more personal. He doesn't want balance. He wants perfection. His version of perfection. And that means any hero who resists isn't just fighting for survival, they're fighting for the right to exist at all. Because in Doom's Battleworld, if he decides your timeline doesn't belong, you're erased. That's what makes him more terrifying than Kang. Kang wanted control of time. Doom wants control of existence. And here's where the X-Men become crucial. Thematically, the X-Men have always been about survival, identity, and fighting for the right to exist in a world that wants to erase them. What better metaphor than Doom literally erasing entire timelines of mutants he doesn't deem worthy? Suddenly, the X-Men aren't just new recruits. They're central to the multiverse war. The Fantastic Four, of course, are also essential, because Reed Richards is Doom's eternal rival. In fact, I think Reed will be the one to uncover Doom's plan, the one to realize that timelines are the key. And just like in the comics, it'll come down to Reed versus Doom for the fate of reality itself. Now let's speculate a bit deeper into Avengers: Doomsday. If the title is literal, then it suggests that by the end of that movie, the Avengers lose. Not just a normal defeat, they're utterly destroyed. Their universe, their timeline, maybe even their very identity as a team is shattered. And Doom stands victorious. That's the kind of devastating ending Marvel needs to set up Secret Wars as the ultimate comeback story. Picture this. By the end of Doomsday, the Avengers are scattered across Doom's battle world. Some of them are trapped in different regions made from alternate timelines. Maybe Captain America ends up in a timeline where Hydra won. Maybe Thor is stuck in a Ragnarok loop. Maybe Spider-Man is forced to live in a world where every villain he ever fought is alive at once. Doom could design these nightmare realities as both prisons and entertainment for himself. And when Secret Wars begins, the story is about these heroes finding each other again, breaking free of Doom's control, and rallying to take him down. That's not just epic, it's emotionally satisfying. It's the payoff for years of multiverse setup. Now here's something I've been thinking about a lot. Where does Kang fit into all of this? If Doom is the endgame, does Kang just vanish? I don't think so. I think Kang's entire Dynasty saga is about softening the multiverse for Doom's takeover. Think of Kang as the earthquake that destabilizes the structure, and Doom as the conqueror who builds his empire on the rubble. Kang's variants fight, timelines branch, incursions multiply, and then Doom steps in and says, "Enough, I'll take it from here." And that's the cruel irony. Kang's obsession with pruning timelines to prevent chaos actually creates the chaos Doom needs to seize power. Kang is basically Doom's opening act. The more I think about it, the more it feels inevitable. Marvel isn't just telling random multiverse stories. They're building to a single realization: that the multiverse isn't infinite and free. It's fragile and collapsing. And the one person smart enough, ruthless enough, and arrogant enough to seize control of that collapse is Victor Von Doom. So when I look ahead, I don't see Avengers. Doomsday as just another team-up movie. I see it as the moment everything we know about the MCU dies, and in its place, Doom builds something new. And when Secret Wars arrives, it won't just be a fight for survival, it'll be a fight to reclaim existence itself. So far, I've laid out how the MCU's multiverse works, not as infinite universes floating in isolation, but as layered timelines inside universes that can collide and collapse. We've looked at how Kang represents the chaos of branching timelines, while Doom represents the terrifying order of someone who can bend those timelines into his own empire. But now, we need to go deeper, because the real story, the final arc of this multiverse saga, isn't just about Doom rising. It's about how the heroes we love can possibly resist him, and what Marvel might be planning with Secret Wars as both a climax and a reboot of the MCU. Because if there's one thing Marvel is good at, it's making the end feel like a new beginning. Let's start by imagining Battleworld itself, because that's the key to everything. In the comics, Battleworld was a patchwork planet made up of pieces of destroyed universes, stitched together by Doom after the multiverse collapsed. But in the MCU, I think it's going to be something even bigger. It won't just be a planet, it'll be a reality. A full-scale constructed multiverse, built from fragments of timelines that Doom has conquered, merged, or stolen. Think about it. Doom learns that multiple timelines can exist within a single universe. He manipulates incursions to cause them to crash together. And instead of letting the universe collapse, he stabilizes the wreckage by weaving it into one world under his control. That's not just clever, It's godlike. And this is where the storytelling potential is enormous. Battleworld means Marvel can bring back any character from any era and put them all in the same space. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man swinging through one region while Wolverine slashes Sentinels in another. Deadpool cracking jokes in the background. Iron Man facing off against a variant of himself. It all works because Doom created a world where those fragments coexist. But here's the horrifying part. Doom isn't just a ruler. He's a curator. He decides what survives and what doesn't. If he wants a world where heroes serve him as knights, he makes it. If he wants a land of zombies, he makes it. If he wants a reality where only villains thrive, he makes it. The Avengers don't just face a villain. They face a god who edits existence like a writer edits a script. And that's what makes Secret Wars the most ambitious story Marvel has ever attempted. Now, let's talk about how the heroes fit into this. By the end of Avengers, Doomsday, I think the Avengers will be shattered. Their team is broken, their timeline destroyed, and they find themselves scattered across Battleworld's regions. This is where Secret Wars begins. With the heroes isolated, trapped in Doom's game. And here's where it gets really emotional. Each hero, or group of heroes, will be forced to confront a nightmare version of themselves or their world. For example, Spider-Man could be trapped in a world where every villain he's ever fought is alive and united against him. Thor might be stuck in a timeline where Asgard was never rebuilt, doomed to watch his people suffer endlessly. Captain Marvel could be placed in a world where she never got her powers, watching others live out the life she could have had. The X-Men might find themselves in a land where mutants were completely eradicated, leaving them as the last survivors. Doom doesn't just want to rule, he wants to break them. He wants to show them that their resistance is meaningless when he controls the very fabric of reality. And yet, that's exactly where the spark of rebellion begins. Here's my theory. Secret Wars will be structured not as one massive battle from the start, but as a series of escapes. Heroes breaking out of Doom's nightmare worlds, finding each other again, and realizing they're stronger together. The emotional weight of this is incredible because it mirrors the audience's journey. We've watched these characters be fractured across different franchises, actors, and studios. Now, for the first time, Marvel brings them all into one place. Secret Wars becomes not just about defeating Doom, but about reuniting every version of Marvel history into one epic showdown. And this is where the Fantastic Four become absolutely central. Reed Richards has always been the mind who can stand toe-to-toe with Doom. I think Reed will be the one who figures out how Doom built Battleworld, and he'll lead the charge in finding its weakness. Meanwhile, the X-Men bring the heart, because their fight for existence directly parallels the fight against Doom's erasure of timelines. And the Avengers bring the soul, because they're the ones who remind everyone what it means to stand together, no matter the odds. It's all building to one thing, the final stand against Doom. Now, how does that final stand work? How do you defeat someone who can literally control timelines inside a universe? This is where Loki comes back in. Remember at the end of Loki Season 2, when he took control of the timelines and became the god of stories? That wasn't just a character arc, it was foreshadowing. Loki is the counterbalance to Doom. Where Doom manipulates timelines to rule, Loki weaves them together to preserve. Loki doesn't see timelines as resources to exploit, he sees them as stories to be cherished. So, in Secret Wars, I think Loki will play a pivotal role. Maybe he doesn't directly fight Doom, but he helps the heroes see that the way to defeat Doom isn't brute force. It's rewriting the story itself. And this is where Marvel can reset the MCU. Because, let's be honest, Secret Wars isn't just the climax of a saga. It's Marvel's chance to clean the slate, merge characters, and set up the future. We know actors are aging, contracts are ending, and the franchise needs fresh momentum. So what better way to do it than by using Doom's Battleworld as the crucible that forges a new reality? The end of Secret Wars will almost certainly be the creation of a new, unified universe. Maybe they call it Universe Prime, maybe it remains Earth 616, but it'll be a reality where the best elements of every timeline survive. Mutants exist. The Fantastic Four exist. Deadpool exists. Spider-Man still swings. And the Avengers? They're reborn. But here's the most chilling thought of all. Doom might not truly die. In the comics, Doom's presence always lingers. Even when he loses, his influence remains. And I think the same will be true here. Even if the heroes rebuild the multiverse, even if they create a new reality, the memory of Doom will haunt it. Maybe he gets trapped beyond the multiverse. Maybe he's reduced to whispers in the timelines. But he'll always be there, waiting. Because Doom isn't just a villain. Doom is inevitability. And that's what makes the multiverse saga so powerful. Now, stepping back for a second, let's think about this in terms of us, the audience. Why has Marvel made the multiverse so complicated? Why go through all this trouble with timelines, variants, incursions, and rules that sometimes feel inconsistent? Because it mirrors the real-life complexity of Marvel's film history. Sony had Spider-Man. Fox had the X-Men and Fantastic Four. The MCU had the Avengers. These were separate universes in a business sense, timelines that branched outside of Kevin Feige's control. But now, Marvel has the rights back, and Secret Wars is their way of merging it all into one coherent whole. The multiverse isn't just a story mechanic, it's a metaphor for Marvel itself. The chaos of licensing, franchises, and studios is being woven into one battle world, one story, under one ruler, Feige instead of Doom. And we, the audience, get to watch it all come together. So where does that leave us? Here's how I see it playing out. Kang destabilizes the multiverse. The Avengers fight him, but realize he's just a symptom. Doom rises during Avengers. Doomsday shatters the team and builds Battleworld. Secret Wars brings every hero together in one last stand against Doom. Loki and Reed Richards figure out the key to defeating him. The heroes rewrite reality, creating a new unified MCU where mutants, the Fantastic Four, and legacy characters coexist. Doom is defeated, but not destroyed, because his shadow must always linger. And that's how the multiverse saga ends. Not with confusion, but with clarity. Not with fragmentation, but with unity. I don't know about you, but when I think about this, I get chills. Because it's not just another superhero story. It's Marvel telling us that everything we've ever loved, every Spider-Man movie, every X-Men scene, every version of these heroes matters. They all count. They're all part of the story. And Secret Wars is where that story finally converges. And when the dust settles, we'll have a new universe, a new starting point, and new heroes to carry the torch. But we'll also remember the old ones, the ones who sacrificed everything to defeat Doom and reshape reality. That's legacy. That's storytelling. That's the MCU at its best. So, if you've been confused about the multiverse, don't worry. That's the point. It was always meant to be confusing until now. Once you understand that timelines can stack within a universe, everything clicks into place. Kang represents the chaos of that system. Doom represents the order. The Avengers represent resistance. And Secret Wars represents rebirth. We finally know how Marvel's multiverse actually works. And now, we finally know where it's going. And hey, if you've stuck with me this far, thank you. I put a lot into breaking down these theories, because I want to make sense of the wild ride Marvel is taking us on. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, because it really helps me out. Share it with your fellow Marvel fans who are just as confused about the multiverse as we all were. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already, because I've got so many more theories to dive into as we get closer to Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. Trust me, the multiverse is only getting crazier from here, and I'll be right here breaking it all down with you.